My name is Noelia Ramos, and I did my book study report on Dr. Robert M. Sapolsky's book, Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. I primarily was drawn to this book because I am very much prone to stress, and I'd like to look at not necessarily symptoms, but emotions from a physiological standpoint, and completely understanding why, like the best of my abilities, why these emotions can lead to such detrimental results. So with this book, Dr. Sapolsky does exactly that. He takes a concept that might be so simple, stress. Stress is something that we deal with every single day. Stress is something that we have come to normalize and make jokes out of, and just something that we've learned to live with. He takes this concept of stress, something that we have normalized so much in our lives, and basically breaks it down and kind of forces you to take a step back and look at the whole picture. He he starts off with the book explaining what stress is. So stress is the result of your fight or flight response being activated. So with animals, let's talk about zebras. Zebras, whenever they're faced in a situation where a predator is coming after them, their fight or flight response is starts up, and they either decide to run away from the predator or stay put and get eaten by the predator. But the big difference between this response with humans and animals is that animals only feel this, they only activate this response when it's needed. So the zebra isn't standing in a crowd. I believe that's what you call a group of zebras. They're not standing in a crowd of zebras and constantly thinking about, this lion is going to eat me. What do I do? What should I do? If I were to run to the left over here, I'm going to trip on a bush and the lion is going to get me. Or maybe I should keep looking behind me because the lion could be behind me and I'll be eaten. Like animals don't think this way. They only activate this response when it's actually needed. Humans, on the other hand, tend to be overthinkers and tend to constantly remind themselves of something that needs to be done. So this constant reminding constantly activates the fight or flight response in our brains, in our nervous system, and it causes us to feel like we need to prepare ourselves to run when initially we're stressing about something that's done sitting down, for example, a test. So So this constant activation of the stress, of this fight or flight response, is explained in the book, and it leads to, because common symptoms of the fight or flight response being initiated is sweaty palms, heart racing, fidgeting, constant moving, because you're preparing yourself to run away. So the constant activating of this response tends to lead to your heart overworking, your blood pumping a lot harder than what it should be, and just like your body just being on edge the whole time. And because of this, he explains this in the book, it leads to multiple terminal illnesses. It can lead to a neurotic heart, which is the explosion of your heart, or it could lead to, because it's overworking itself, or it could lead to multiple cardiovascular diseases. It can lead to anxiety. It can also lead to depression. Like, it can lead to so many different psychological and physiological symptoms that stress really isn't good for your body. And he explains all of this. It includes pictures of the heart that was exploded, of people that were faced with disease because of the stress. There is also a section discussed in the book how stress is related to cancer and how it could possibly be a precursor for cancer. Though there are many studies, during when this book was written, there are not many studies to support this theory, but it's there, and it could be a correlation. There are so many things to consider when talking about stress, when thinking about stress, when feeling stress, that we humans don't take into account. the effects of it. We just worry about that test that we have at the end of the week, or we just worry about that application that needs to be filled in, or that interview that I have tomorrow. We don't think about the long-term effects that stress can have on our bodies. And it's not just stress, like the traditional stress where you feel like you have a test. Children, he also explains how stress can affect children in the relationships between the mother and the child, or the father and the child, and how stress, especially with attachment, can lead to serious developmental issues in the future with these children. If a child is in a stressful environment and they don't have that caregiver there to help them with coping with these feelings, the child may tend to repress themselves. They tend to feel indifference. They tend to cut themselves off from any emotional ties. A study that was described in the book by Harry Harlow was the experiment with the terry cloth and the wired mother. Harlow conducted this experiment on a series of rhesus infant monkeys, and he wanted to know if basically if the monkey would pick food over a nurturing mother. So they had one wired monkey mother. She was made out of, it was just plain wire and wood, and she had a bottle inside of her torso, while the other one was made the same exact way, but without the bottle, but she was wrapped around with terry cloth. They found that the infant monkey would run to the wired mother for the food, but would always come back to that terry cloth mother. The monkey would starve itself before it would initially go back to that wired mother. It was as if they only needed to go there only if they were hungry. So stress is something that knows no age and knows no limit to it. It can, if not dealt with properly, it can be fatal. Another important thing discussed in this book is our different coping mechanisms. One of the primary coping mechanisms is exercise, and exercise helps an individual. He explains how it helps an individual channel all of those emotions or all of those feelings of that fight or flight response, those sweaty palms, heart racing, everything, and kind of just like let it out. So to help stimulate that blood flow and help, instead of internalizing all of those feelings, to help externalize it and help feel that sense of euphoric bliss after you exercise. This book was very educational and very helpful, and provided a lot of information that I never once thought of. I honestly, I always thought, hey, stress, it'll go away. As soon as I take that test, I'll be okay. But stress is something that's constant in our lives, and this book helps really emphasize that. And the different coping mechanisms, whether it be exercise, meditation, interacting with your social environment, all these things, even though they may seem small, can help benefit you in the long run. It can prevent you from becoming diabetic. It can prevent you from developing depression. It can help you from dying from a heart attack. These different things, stress, honestly, it may seem like such a minute thing, but it is something huge, and it is the common denominator for many illnesses. And once this is realized, it can help prevent a lot of different things. And that is one thing that I will take away from this book, that I loved from this book, was the fact that it was very eye-opening, and it didn't, and the author, he didn't write this as an educational, monotone, boring way. He did this, it was actually very fun to read this book, and it was very humorous, and it was very eye-opening, and I definitely would recommend it to not only just future counselors or even clients, honestly, friends and family, anyone who feels stress. This book would definitely help out with everything. And I hope that you enjoyed this book as much as I did. Thank you so much for watching.